The first sound wasn't the river, wasn't the wind moving through the pines, wasn't even the crunch of expensive leather boots on weathered wood planks. It was the crack. Bone-meeting boot, a sharp, wet sound that made the morning birds go silent. Then came the whimper, small, pained, the kind of sound that cuts through a man's chest and twists. Titan hit the dock hard, 8 years old, German shepherd, gray creeping into his muzzle. A scar running down his right side like a lightning bolt frozen in fur. His left hind leg buckled, the one that never quite healed right after Kandahar. The canine service badge hung from his collar, faded. The number still visible if you look in close enough, K9-4127, 63 confirmed IED detections. Helmand Province, Purple Heart recipient, military working dog retired. Warren Ashford didn't look at the badge. He adjusted his Brioni suit jacket, $4,000 of Italian wool. Presidential Rolex catching the September sunlight. Silver hair slicked back like a man who'd never questioned his right to take what he wanted. "Stupid dog," Warren said. His voice carried the casual cruelty of someone who'd never faced consequences. "Should have stayed on your side of the property line." Two men flanked him, Vince 28 neck like a fire hydrant, tattoos crawling up from his collar. Derek 31 leaner, meaner eyes that enjoyed the work. They stood with their hands loose at their sides. Waiting, Titan tried to stand. His front legs shook. The kick had found his ribs. Something inside grinding wrong. "Look at that," Vince said, grinning. "Old war dog can't even get up." Derek laughed. The sound bounced off the water. Warren checked his watch. "We have the surveyor coming at 9. I want this resolved before then." The river moved beneath them. Pine River, Montana. 3 miles of pristine waterfront. Cottonwoods and Douglas fir. Mountains rising purple in the distance. The kind of place people write about in magazines. The kind of place men like Warren Ashford turned into money. Titan's breathing came ragged, fast and shallow. Warren raised his boot again. The screen door opened. Garrett Hayes stepped onto the dock. 45 years old, 5'11", lean muscle wrapped tight over a frame that had carried 80-pound packs through Afghan mountains. Dark hair cut military short. Beard trimmed close. A scar on his left cheek, small, pale, the kind you only noticed up close. He wore jeans and a faded navy t-shirt. No shoes. Coffee mug in his left hand, he took in the scene. Warren, Vince, Derek. Titan on the plank struggling to breathe. The mug hit the dock. Ceramic shattering, coffee spreading dark across the wood. Garrett moved. No running, no shouting, just forward motion. Controlled, economical. 20 years of training that compressed into 6 seconds of distance covered. He knelt beside Titan, didn't look at the men. His hands found the canine's ribs. Gentle, practiced. The dog's breathing hitched. Garrett's jaw tightened. "You kicked my dog," Garrett said. His voice came out quiet, flat, the tone operators used right before things went kinetic. Warren smiled. "Your dog trespassed on my property." "This is my property." "Not for long." Warren pulled a folded document from his inside pocket. "Eminent domain hearing, 14 days. City council votes already decided. This land becomes part of the Ashford Casino Resort development. $180 million project. Your little cabin's in the way." Garrett stood, slow, deliberate. He turned to face Warren. Up close, the differences became clear. Warren's 62 soft around the middle despite the expensive suits. Hands that had never thrown a punch that mattered. Eyes used to people backing down. Garrett's hands hung relaxed at his sides, but the stillness wasn't calm. It was coiled, waiting. "Leave," Garrett said, one word, ice in it. Warren's smile widened. "Or what, you'll assault me in front of witnesses?" He gestured to Vince and Derek. "I own this town, Hayes. I own the sheriff. I own the council. I own 82% of this riverfront." He stepped closer. "And in 2 weeks, I'll own this too." Garrett didn't move, didn't blink, just held Warren's gaze. Something in that look made Warren's smile falter. Just for a second. Just enough. Because Garrett Hayes had looked into the eyes of men about to die. Had watched Taliban fighters realize too late that the quiet American with the rifle wasn't going to miss. Had seen the moment when bravado became fear, became nothing at all. Warren saw something in those eyes he didn't like. He stepped back, smoothed his jacket. 14 days, Mr. Hayes. Enjoy your river while you can." Warren turned. Vince and Derek followed, their boots heavy on the dock, getting into a black Escalade parked on the access road. Engine purring to life, gravel crunching under $30,000 tires. Garrett waited until the sound faded. Then he knelt again beside Titan. The K9's tail thumped once. weak, trying to be strong for his handler. Easy boy, Garrett whispered. I got you. He slid his arms under the dog. 85 pounds of muscle and bone and scar tissue. Tight and whined. Garrett stood slowly cradling him like he weighed nothing. The walk to the truck felt longer than Helmand Province night patrols. Pine River Veterinary Clinic sat on Main Street between a hardware store and a diner that still used the same menu from 1987. The building needed paint. The parking lot needed repaving. But Dr. Rebecca Walsh ran the best animal hospital in 3 counties. Garrett carried Titan through the front door at 7:43 in the morning. The clinic didn't officially open until 8. Becky was already there. She always was. 32 years old, blonde hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Scrubs with cartoon dogs on them. No makeup, no jewelry except a silver cross on a thin chain. Her father's. Sergeant Major Hank Walsh. Army Rangers, buried 2 years ago with full honors. She looked up from paperwork, saw Garrett's face, saw Titan. Exam 2, she said, already moving. No questions, no hesitation. The stainless steel table was cold. Titan flinched when Garrett laid him down. Becky's hands moved quick and sure. Stethoscope, palpation, visual assessment. 30 seconds of examination that told her everything she needed to know. Internal bleeding, she said. Ruptured spleen. When did this happen? 20 minutes ago. Who barnite der Nam? Warren Ashford. Becky's jaw tightened. She knew the name. Everyone in Pine River knew the name. I need to operate now. He's stable enough for anesthesia, but that window's closing fast. She pulled off her stethoscope, looked at Garrett. This is an $11,000 surgery, Garrett. Emergency splenectomy on a K9 his age with his scar tissue from previous injuries. She hesitated. Do you have... No. The word came out harder than he meant. I've got $3,400 in savings. That's it. Becky nodded, thinking, math running behind her eyes. The clinic barely broke even most months. She had loans, overhead, supplies. I can try a payment plan with your father, Garrett said quietly. Sergeant Major Walsh, Mosul, 2014. Becky went still. Ambush, Garrett continued. Market District. 3 Rangers pinned down by PKM fire from a rooftop position. I was there for a different op. Heard the contact. Went in. He looked at Titan. Your dad took 2 rounds, shoulder and thigh, bled through his tourniquets. My corpsman got him stable. Medevac came 18 minutes later. Becky's eyes were wet. He talked about you, Garrett said. Showed me pictures. Said you were in vet school. Said he was proud. Garrett's voice got quieter. He told me, if you ever meet my Rebecca, tell her I love her. Tell her to help the ones who can't ask for it. Becky wiped her eyes, straightened. He told me about you too, 2 months before he died. Pancreatic cancer moves fast. He was on morphine, but he was clear. He said, Rebecca Louise Walsh, if you ever meet Garrett Hayes, you owe him everything. That man gave me 6 more years with you. She looked at Titan. This surgery is free. Becky, this K9 detected 63 IEDs. Saved how many lives? Hundreds. And my dad got 6 more years. Got to walk me down the aisle before the cancer took him. Got to meet his grandson. She was prepping already, drawing up medications. You don't pay for miracles, Garrett. You just say thank you and pass them forward. Garrett's throat was too tight for words. Becky moved fast, called her assistant, set up the surgical suite. Within 6 minutes, Titan was under anesthesia. Monitors beeping steady. Becky scrubbed in. Garrett sat in the waiting room, alone. Fluorescent lights humming. Magazines from 2 years ago. A poster about heartworm prevention. He pulled out his phone, stared at the cracked screen, thought about calling someone. But who his sister Sarah was gone. Car accident. July 21st, 2021. Her husband, too. Left behind a son, Dalton, 11 years old at the time. Nowhere else to go. So Garrett took him in. Became a father overnight to a traumatized kid while still trying to figure out how to be a man without Catherine. Catherine. Gone 3 years this March. Leukemia. 41 years old. They'd met at a Navy bar in Coronado. She was a teacher. He was fresh from BUD/S. She saw through the bravado to the scared kid trying to be invincible. They had 14 years, most of it deployed. Him in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. Her in their apartment in Virginia Beach, teaching 5th grade, writing letters he'd read in forward operating bases that smelled like diesel and fear. The riverfront property was hers, inherited from her grandfather. 18 acres of Montana wilderness. She dreamed of retiring there. building a cabin, watching the river, growing old together. She never made it to old. Garrett scattered her ashes in the Pine River on a Tuesday morning in April, alone, the way she'd wanted it. No fuss, she'd said near the end. Just you and the water and the mountains. Let me be part of something beautiful. The property was all he had left of her. That and the debt. $31,000 for the funeral. She'd wanted simple, but cancer deaths aren't simple. Medical bills kept coming for months after. 17,000 in final invoices for treatments that didn't work. VA disability gave him $1,847 a month. 70% rating. Tinnitus. PTSD. The kind of broken the government could quantify but not fix. It was enough to survive. Not enough to save. Not enough to fight a man like Warren Ashford. Garrett looked at his hands. Scarred knuckles. Calluses. Hands that had done things in dark places under the authority of orders, signed in air-conditioned offices half a world away. Operation Desert Viper, Syria, 2019, his last deployment. They were supposed to evacuate coalition personnel from a compound outside Deir ez-Zor. 12 hours, in and out, clean. It wasn't clean. ISIS fighters overran the position. Heavy contact. The evac birds couldn't land. Garrett's team had to fight their way 2 clicks through urban terrain to an alternate LZ. 2 Syrian interpreters, Ahmed and Bashir, were with them. Both had families. Both had risked everything helping American forces. Halfway to the LZ, Ahmed took a round through the leg. Femoral artery. Bashir stopped to help him. Garrett had a choice. Stop and help them, maybe save them. Definitely miss the window for evac. Or keep moving. Complete the mission. Leave them behind. He chose the mission. Ahmed and Bashir were executed 9 hours later. ISIS posted the video. Garrett got a commendation. The coalition personnel made it out. Mission success. He put in his discharge papers 30 days after getting stateside. Some nights he still heard Ahmed screaming for help in Arabic. Some nights he saw Bashir's face in the moments before the bullet. The waiting room door opened. Becky stood there, still in surgical scrubs, mask pulled down, tired but smiling. He's stable, she said. Splenectomy was clean, no complications. He's old and he's got scar tissue everywhere, but he's tough. She sat down next to Garrett. He'll need 2 weeks recovery, restricted activity, pain management. But he's going to make it. Garrett let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Can I see him? He's still under. Give it an hour. I'll come get you. Becky started to stand. Garrett caught her wrist, gentle. Thank you doesn't cover it. My dad said the same thing to you once. You told him operators don't keep score. She smiled. Neither do vets. She left him there, alone with relief and the fluorescent hum and the knowledge that in 14 days Warren Ashford would take everything anyway. The house felt empty without Titan. Garrett walked through the cabin, 800 square feet, 1 bedroom, kitchen with appliances from the 90s, living room with a wood stove and furniture Catherine had picked out. Everything simple. Everything hers. Dalton's door was closed. The kid was 13 now. Headphones and video games and that particular teenage silence that meant either nothing or everything. Garrett knocked. Dalton, you up? Movement inside. The door opened. Dalton stood there in a Metallica t-shirt and gym shorts. Brown hair too long. Catherine's eyes. Sarah's stubborn chin. Titan okay? Dalton asked. Yeah, Becky's got him. Surgery went well. Who did it? Garrett hesitated, then told him. Everything. Warren, the kick, the eminent domain. Dalton's face went hard. That look that worried Garrett. The one that said the kid had inherited more than just eye color. He'd gotten the haze anger too, the kind that burned cold and patient. What are we going to do? Dalton asked. I don't know yet. We can't just let him take the house. Mom and Dad lived here before the accident. This is... His voice cracked. 13 and trying to be tough. This is all we have. Garrett put a hand on his shoulder. I know. Can we fight it like legally? With what I've got, $3,400. Lawyers cost more than that just to say hello. Dalton nodded, processing. Then we fight different. No. Uncle Garrett. No. Firm. Final. You go to school. You do your homework. You let me handle this. How? Good question. Garrett didn't have an answer. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Mr. Hayes, a man's voice. Older. Rough with years and cigarettes. Who's this? Name's Wyatt Morgan. I live over on Cedar Ridge Road. Heard about your trouble with Warren Ashford. News travels fast. Small town. Listen, I need to talk to you in person, not over the phone. About what? About how Warren Ashford stole my ranch 7 years ago, and about the lockbox in my garage that might just put him in federal prison. Garrett looked at Dalton. The kid was watching, listening. When, Garrett asked. Tonight, 8 o'clock, I'll come to you. And Mr. Hayes, don't mention this to anyone. Warren's got ears everywhere. The line went dead. Garrett stared at the phone. Dalton stepped closer. What was that? Maybe nothing, maybe something. But we're going to find out. It wasn't a question. Garrett looked at his nephew, 13 years old, already thinking like an operator, already ready to fight. Yeah, Garrett said. We're going to find out. Sheriff Clayton Burke arrived at the cabin at 4:17 that afternoon. Garrett was on the porch, sanding the railing, busy work, something to do while Titan recovered and the clock ticked toward Warren's deadline. Burke pulled up in his cruiser, 58 years old, soft gut hanging over his duty belt, mustache like a 70s cop show. He'd been sheriff for 12 years, got reelected every 4 years by comfortable margins. Everyone liked Clayton, good old boy, fair, reasonable. Everyone was wrong. Burke got out slow, hitched his belt, walked up to the porch like a man visiting a friend. Garrett, he said, pleasant, conversational. Sheriff, got a complaint filed this morning. Warren Ashford says you assaulted him, threatened him, witnesses and everything. Garrett kept sanding. That right. Now I know Warren can be difficult, and I know you're military. Seen some things, got that PTSD and whatnot. Burke spoke like he was being understanding, generous. But I can't have folks going around threatening prominent citizens. He kicked my dog. That's a separate issue. Property dispute, civil matter. Burke pulled a citation from his pocket, unfolded it. This here's a warning, official. Next time you threaten Mr. Ashford, I'll have to arrest you for assault. Understand? Garrett stopped sanding, looked at Burke. Really looked. The sheriff's eyes slid away, guilty, not meeting the gaze. How much? Garrett asked. Excuse me? How much is Warren paying you? Burke's jaw tightened. That's offensive. That's a question, and you didn't answer it. I'm trying to help you, son. Warren's got lawyers, got resources. You're one man. Broke. Isolated. You can't win this. So I should just give up. Let him take my land. I'm saying pick your battles. Take his offer. Move somewhere cheaper. Start over. Garrett set down the sandpaper. Stood. Burke's hand drifted toward his sidearm. Instinct. Fear dressed up as procedure. This land is where my wife wanted to rest, Garrett said quietly. I scattered her ashes in that river. Every morning I wake up and she's right there, in the water, in the trees, in the light on the mountains. His voice stayed level, controlled. So, no sheriff. I'm not moving. I'm not taking his money. I'm staying right here. Burke's face reddened. Then you're a fool. And when Warren destroys, you don't come crying to me. He turned, walked back to his cruiser, slammed the door. Engine roaring to life, gravel spraying as he accelerated away. Dalton stepped out onto the porch. He'd been watching through the window. He's dirty, Dalton said. Yeah. They're all dirty. Yeah. So what do we do? Garrett looked at the river, the late afternoon sun turning the water gold. Catherine loved this time of day, called it the golden hour, said it made everything look possible. We wait for 8 o'clock, Garrett said. See what Wyatt Morgan has to say. And if it's nothing, then we find another way. And if there isn't another way, Garrett looked at his nephew, saw Catherine's eyes, saw his sister's stubbornness, saw himself at 13, already learning that the world didn't care about fair. There's always another way, Dalton. Sometimes you just have to be willing to pay the price. The sun dropped toward the mountains. The golden hour faded to blue. And in the veterinary clinic, 6 miles away, Titan woke from anesthesia. Groggy, hurting, but alive. His tail thumped once against the recovery kennel floor. He'd survived worse than Warren Ashford's boot. Kandahar, Helmand, IEDs buried in roads that looked just like every other road. Firefights where the only warning was the crack of rounds passing too close. He was a K9, military working dog. Badge number 4127, 63 IED detections, Purple Heart recipient, and he wasn't done yet. Wyatt Morgan arrived at 7:58. Garrett watched from the porch as the headlights cut through the gathering dark. Old Ford pickup, 1992 by the look of it. Primer gray patches on the fender. Engine that ran rough but ran. The truck stopped. Engine died. The door opened with a creak that said hinges needed oil. Wyatt climbed out slow. 71 years old, 6'2" once upon a time, but age had stolen an inch or two. shoulders still broad under a flannel shirt. Jeans held up with a belt that had seen better decades. Work boots with new soles on old leather. But it was his eyes that told the story. Marine eyes, Vietnam eyes, the kind that had seen things and locked them away in places you didn't talk about at barbecues. He carried a metal lockbox, gray, scratched, about the size of a briefcase. Dalton stood behind Garrett, silent, watching. The kid had good instincts, knew when to be still. "Mr. Hayes," Wyatt said, voice like gravel in a cement mixer. "Mr. Morgan?" "Call me Wyatt. Mr. Morgan was my father and he was a son of a bitch." Garrett almost smiled. "Coffee." "I'd rather have something stronger, but coffee'll do." They went inside. The cabin's living room felt smaller with Wyatt in it. The man had presence, the kind you earned, the kind they taught you at Paris Island and refined in rice patties. Garrett poured coffee. Black. Wyatt took it in hands that shook slightly. Not fear, not age. Something else. "Parkinson's," Wyatt said, catching Garrett's look. "Early stage. Doctors say I got maybe 5 good years left before I'm drooling in a home somewhere." He sipped the coffee, "which is why I don't have time for subtlety anymore." He set the lockbox on Catherine's coffee table. Old wood, scarred. She'd bought it at a yard sale their second year of marriage. 2017, Wyatt began. "I owned 40 acres on Cedar Ridge, cattle ranch. Not big, but mine. Paid off. My wife died in '09. Lung cancer. I kept the place going, had a few head, grew hay, made enough to live." He opened the lockbox. Inside were documents. Lots of them. Organized in file jackets. Labeled. Dated. The meticulous organization of a man who'd spent decades in the military. "Warren came sniffing around that spring. Wanted to buy. I told him no. Place wasn't for sale. Had been in my family since 1953. Wyatt retrieved a manila envelope. 3 months later, the county sent me a notice. Said I owed back taxes, $12,000, interest and penalties going back 5 years. "Did you?" Garrett asked. "Hell no. I paid every year. Had receipts. But when I went to the county office, my payment records were gone. Computer said I hadn't paid since 2012. I showed them my canceled checks. They said those could be forged." Dalton leaned forward. "They erased your payments." "Someone did. Someone with access to county systems." Wyatt handed Garrett the envelope. Inside were photocopies of checks, bank statements, letters from the county, each one marked with handwritten notes, dates, amounts, cross-references. "I fought it for 8 months, hired a lawyer with money I didn't have. But Warren's lawyers are better. County put a lien on my property, then a tax sale. Warren bought it at auction for $18,000. 40 acres worth 200 grand on the low end. Gone." Garrett flipped through the documents. Everything was there. Payments, dates, proof. The kind of evidence that should have mattered. "Where'd you go?" Garrett asked. "I live with my daughter now, over in Billings. Her husband tolerates me, barely. I sleep in a room that used to be for storage." Wyatt's hands shook harder. He set down his coffee. "I spent 50 years building something. Warren took it in 8 months. Why didn't you go to the FBI?" "I tried. Agent in the Billings office. Young guy, fresh out of Quantico probably. Looked at my evidence. Said it was a civil matter, local jurisdiction, nothing federal about tax disputes." Wyatt pulled out another envelope. Thicker, heavier. "But that was 2017. Since then I've kept digging. Called other people who lost land to Warren. Found 11 of them, all similar stories. Fake liens, forged documents, missing records, each one following the same pattern." He spread the envelopes on the table. Names written on tabs in careful block letters. Davis, Thompson, Kowalski, Martinez. Each one a story of loss. 47 documents in here, White continued. Contracts with signatures that don't match notary records. Emails I got through FOIA requests showing coordination between Warren's office and county officials. Testimony from 3 county employees who quit rather than keep helping him. One of them's willing to testify if someone with authority asks. Says she's got cancer. Stage 4. Wants to clear her conscience before she goes. Garrett looked at Dalton. The kid was processing, thinking, intelligence behind those young eyes. "Why haven't you done anything with this?" "I took it to 3 law firms, 2 in Billings, 1 in Helena. All 3 said the same thing. Too expensive, too risky. Warren would bury them in motions and countersuits. They'd spend 2 years and 100 grand just to get to trial. And even then, no guarantee of winning. They said I'd die broken bitter, fighting a battle I couldn't win. So you gave up, Dalton said. Not accusing, just stating fact. I got old and sick and tired, Wyatt said. But I kept the evidence, kept adding to it, updated it every few months, hoping someday someone would care enough to use it. He looked at Garrett, direct, unflinching. Then I heard about you. Navy SEAL, lost his wife, living on her land, raising his nephew. And Warren Ashford picking a fight with the wrong damn man. I'm not a lawyer, Garrett said. No, but you're a fighter, and you've got skin in the game now. This isn't theoretical for you. It's your home, your wife's memory, your nephew's future. Wyatt stood, slow, joints protesting. This evidence won't hold up in county court. Burke's on Warren's payroll, so's Judge Hendricks. Been that way for years. But federal court, that's different. That's outside Warren's reach. You get this to the right person at the FBI. He's someone who actually gives a damn Warren goes to prison. And how do I do that? I don't know. I spent 6 years trying to figure it out. But you've got 14 days to do better than I did. Wyatt headed for the door, stopped, turned back. One more thing. Woman named Evelyn Hart lives on Maple Street, number 42. Her husband was Air Force, Colonel James Hart. Warren took their farm in 2017 using a fake tax lien. James died 6 months later. Heart attack. But Evelyn says it was a broken heart. His voice got quiet. She might help. She's got her own evidence, and she's got nothing left to lose. Wyatt left. His truck started on the third try. Taillights disappeared into the Montana dark. Garrett looked at the lockbox. 47 documents, 11 victims, years of theft dressed up as legal proceedings, all of it sitting on Catherine's coffee table like a bomb waiting to detonate. We can win this, Dalton said. Maybe. Not maybe, we can. We just need Dalton. Garrett's voice carried that tone, the one that meant listen. Warren Ashford has been stealing brand for 7 years minimum, probably longer. He's got the sheriff, the judge, the county offices. Hell, he probably owns half the state legislature. He gestured at the lockbox. This evidence is good, really good. But evidence doesn't matter if no one with power cares. So we make them care. It's how Dalton didn't answer. 13 years old and already learning that wanting justice and getting it were different things. Garrett's phone rang. Becky. Titan's awake, she said. He could hear the smile in her voice. Vitals are good. He's groggy but stable. You can come see him if you want. I'll be there in 20 minutes. The drive to town was quiet. Dalton rode shotgun, staring out the window at the dark Montana landscape rolling past. Thinking. Uncle Garrett. Yeah. Why do people like Warren win? Garrett kept his eyes on the road. White lines disappearing under the truck. Because they're willing to do things good people won't. Lie, cheat, hurt whoever gets in the way. And because the system protects money more than it protects people. That's not fair. No, it's not. So why do we follow the rules if they don't? Garrett thought about that. About Ahmed and Bashir. About following orders even when orders felt wrong. About the difference between legal and right. Because the rules are all that separate us from them, Garrett said finally. We break them, we become them. And then nobody wins. The world just gets darker. Dalton was quiet the rest of the drive. Pine River Veterinary Clinic was dark except for the back rooms. Becky met them at the door, still in scrubs, hair falling out of its ponytail. She'd been here since 7 that morning, 17 hours straight. He's groggy, she said without looking up from her clipboard. Pain meds make him sleepy, but he knows you're here. His tail started wagging when he heard your truck. She led them to recovery. 6 kennels, 5 empty, Titan in the largest one. He lifted his head when he saw Garrett. Tail thumped once, weak but there, eyes clearer than this morning. The anesthesia wearing off, the K9 coming back. Garrett knelt, reached through the kennel door. Titan's nose found his hand, cold, wet, alive. The simple miracle of breath and heartbeat. Hey boy, Garrett whispered. You scared me. Titan's eyes focused. That look that said, I'd do it again. I'd take that kick again if it meant protecting home. 2 weeks restricted activity, Becky said. No running, no stairs, short walks only, pain management and antibiotics. I'll send you home with everything you need, written instructions, medication schedule, warning signs to watch for. When can he come home? 2 days, 48 hours minimum. I want to monitor him, make sure there's no post-op complications. Internal bleeding, infection. His age makes everything riskier. She paused, looked at Garrett directly. And honestly, I want him here where Warren can't get to him. Not until this is over. Becky, someone broke into my clinic last night, Garrett. Trashed the front office. Smashed computers. Destroyed 3 years of patient records. Left a message spray painted on the wall. Her voice stayed level, but anger burned underneath. It said, help Hayes lose everything. They didn't touch the animals. Didn't take any drugs. This wasn't robbery. This was a message. Garrett's jaw tightened. I'm sorry. I'll pay for the damages. I'll... Shut up. I'm not scared of Warren Ashford. My dad taught me 2 things. Stand up for what's right and never abandon your people. Her voice turned to steel. Titan stays here as long as he needs to. You stay on that land. And we figure out how to bury this son of a bitch. You think you're alone in this. Half the town's been hurt by Warren. They're just too scared to say it out loud. But scared and broken aren't the same thing. And people remember what it feels like to stand up when someone finally gives them permission. After she left them alone, Garrett sat on the floor outside Titan's kennel, just watching him breathe. Dalton sat beside him. She's tough, Dalton said. Yeah. Her dad raised her right. Do you think we can actually win? I don't know. But we're going to try now. Yeah, we're going to try. They stayed until Titan fell asleep, then drove home through streets empty of everything except streetlights and shadows. The cabin felt different now, emptier without Titan's presence, but also charged, like the air before a storm. Something building, something coming. Garrett checked the locks, set the alarm he'd installed after Catherine died. Old habits from deployments where complacency got you killed. Dalton went to his room. Garrett heard the kid moving around, music playing low, normal teenage sounds masking whatever thoughts ran through his head. Garrett sat in Catherine's chair, the one by the window. She used to read there, morning coffee and whatever novel caught her attention. She'd look up when he came in, smile, make him feel like coming home was the best part of her day. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through photos, found one from 2018, Catherine on this porch, summer dress, sun in her hair, laughing at something he'd said. She was already sick by then, but you couldn't tell. Not yet. The leukemia was quiet, waiting. 6 months later, she was in the hospital. 18 months after that, she was gone. Garrett put the phone away, looked at the lockbox on the coffee table. Wyatt's evidence. Evelyn Hart's potential testimony. Pieces of a puzzle that might mean something or might mean nothing. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Stop digging. Leave town. Last warning. Garrett stared at the screen, deleted the message, set the phone down. Threats meant someone was worried. Good. Let them worry. Let them wonder what he'd found and who he'd told. He went to bed but didn't sleep. Old training. When trouble was coming, you stayed ready. You kept your boots by the bed and your weapon close and your mind running scenarios. At 2:47 in the morning, he heard it. Engines, plural, coming fast on the access road. Garrett was out of bed and moving before conscious thought caught up. Jeans, boots, shirt. He grabbed his Glock 19 from the safe. Checked the magazine. 15 rounds. He had 3 more mags in the drawer. 61 rounds total. Probably not enough if Warren sent everyone. Probably more than he'd need if Warren sent anyone smart. Dalton's door opened. The kid stood there, eyes wide, awake, fear and adrenaline making him look younger than 13. What? Stay inside. Lock your door. If shooting starts, you get in the bathtub and stay down. Understand? Dalton nodded, opened his mouth to say something, closed it, went back to his room. The lock clicked. Good kid. Followed orders even when scared. Garrett moved to the window. Pulled the curtain back an inch. 3 vehicles. Black Escalade in front. 2 Ford F-200s behind it. Commercial grade. The kind contractors used. They stopped 50 yards from the cabin. Lights off now. Engines still running. Ready for quick escape. Doors opened. Men got out. Garrett counted 6. Vince and Derek he recognized from the dock. The other 4 were new. Bigger. Harder. The kind you hired when intimidation wasn't enough anymore. When you needed real violence done. One carried a baseball bat. Louisville Slugger. Aluminum. The kind that could cave in a skull. Another had a crowbar. Straight length of steel. Good for breaking windows. Breaking bones. The rest relied on size and meanness. They moved toward the cabin. Fanning out. Basic tactics. Someone had given them instructions. Probably not Warren himself. He'd send someone else to do the thinking. Garrett's mind went cold and clear. The place operators lived when things went hot. No fear, no anger. Just assessment and response. Calculate. Adapt. Execute. 6 hostiles. Unknown weapons beyond the visible bat and crowbar. Probably at least 2 carrying concealed firearms. They were here to scare him, maybe rough him up. Definitely trash the place. Send a message Warren's words hadn't sent. He could call Sheriff Burke. Waste of time? Burke would show up after it was over and arrest Garrett for defending himself. Turn the victim into the criminal. Standard playbook. He could barricade and wait, let them break windows and doors, replace the damage later. But Dalton was here, and Garrett Hayes didn't hide in his own home. Not from anyone. He opened the front door, stepped onto the porch. Glock held low against his right thigh, not pointing at anyone. Not yet. Just present. Visible. The 6 men stopped, 20 yards away, close enough to see faces, far enough to give Garrett time if they rushed. Vince grinned, 28 years old, neck like a tree trunk, testosterone and stupidity in equal measure. Well, look at that. Navy SEAL's got a gun. You gonna shoot us, hero? Leave, Garrett said, same tone as before, ice in it, the voice that made Taliban fighters reconsider their life choices. Mr. Ashford wants you to understand something. Vince gestured with the bat, casual, like they were discussing weather. You don't get to say no to him. This land's getting developed. Casino resort, jobs, progress. You can take his money and walk away clean. Move to Wyoming, Idaho, somewhere cheaper. Start over. Or, Garrett asked, or you can keep being stubborn and we'll make you wish you hadn't. Vince's grin widened. We'll start with the cabin, then your truck. Then maybe we see if that nephew of yours is tougher than he looks. Wrong thing to say. Garrett raised the Glock. Smooth, practiced, muscle memory from thousands of repetitions. The front sight found Vince's center mass. Last chance, leave now. The men shifted, uncertain now. Bats and crowbars didn't mean much against 9mm hollow points traveling 1,100 feet per second. One of the new guys spoke up. 30s, neck tattoo, prison ink, Aryan Brotherhood markings. You won't shoot. We ain't armed with guns. You'd go to jail. Even SEALs can't just murder people. You're on my property at 3 in the morning, carrying weapons, making threats against a minor. Garrett's voice stayed flat, emotionless. Montana's a stand-your-ground state. Castle doctrine applies. I can claim self-defense all the way to your funerals. 6 of us, 1 of you, 15 rounds in that Glock. You can't get us all before we're on you. First round goes through your femoral artery. Garrett spoke like he was describing a recipe. Clinical, detached. You bleed out in 90 seconds, 70 if you panic and your heart rate spikes. Second round takes out your friend's pelvis. He lives, but he never walks right again. Spends the rest of his life on disability. Third round. Jesus Christ, Derek muttered. He's actually going to do it. I'm going to defend my home, Garrett said. You're going to decide if Warren Ashford's money is worth dying for. If it is, take another step. Find out if I'm bluffing. Silence. Just the river in the distance and the truck engines idling and the sound of men realizing they'd made a critical error in judgment. Vince tried to hold his ground, pride wrestling with survival instinct. Mr. Ashford ain't gonna let this go. Then he should have come himself instead of sending you. Tough talk for a man who's about to lose everything. I've already lost everything that mattered, Garrett said quietly. My wife's dead. My sister's dead. My K9's recovering from injuries one of you caused. I've got a nephew to raise, and this land is all I have left of the people I loved. So yeah, I'll shoot you. And I won't lose a minute of sleep over it, because you're threatening the only things I've got left to protect. The truth in his voice cut through bravado and threats and false confidence. Derek was the first to back up, hands raised slightly, universal gesture of submission. Then another, then another. Vince stood alone, bat in hand, pride versus survival, the eternal calculation of stupid men. This ain't over, he said. It never is. They got back in their vehicles, doors slamming, engines revving, spraying gravel as they turned around and left. Garrett waited until the taillights disappeared completely. Then he lowered the Glock. His hands were steady, heart rate barely elevated. 20 years of training didn't go away just because you retired. The body remembered even when the mind wanted to forget. He turned. Dalton stood in the doorway. Door unlocked. Disobeyed orders. You would have shot them, Dalton said. Not a question. Statement of fact. Yes. Mom always said violence doesn't solve anything. Your mom was a good person, better than me, but sometimes violence is the only language bad people understand. They don't respond to reason, to compassion, to law. They only stop when they meet someone willing to be more violent than they are. Dalton processed that, working through moral complexity most 13-year-olds never faced. Are you a bad person? I don't know. I've done bad things for good reasons. Maybe that's the same thing. Maybe it's not. Maybe the world's more complicated than good and bad. They went inside. Garrett made coffee, even though it was 3 in the morning. Some habits from deployment never died. Hot coffee in the dark while waiting for dawn. His phone rang at 6. Becky, her voice tight. Garrett, someone broke into the clinic again last night. His blood went cold. Tighten. He's fine. They didn't touch the animals this time either. But they trashed the back storage. Destroyed medications worth $8,000. Slashed the surgical table. And Garrett, she paused. They left another message. Carved it into my desk with a knife. It says, Burke won't save you. Garrett's grip on the phone tightened. I'm coming over. No, don't. That's what they want. They want you to do something stupid so Burke can arrest you. They want you to become the bad guy. She took a breath, steadying herself. I'm okay. I'm safe. I've got my dad's Remington 870, 12 gauge, loaded with buckshot, and I'm not backing down. Neither should you. Becky, my dad always said the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Well, I'm not doing nothing. I'm standing with you. We all are. After she hung up, Garrett sat with his coffee, thinking. Warren was escalating faster than expected. First the threats, then the middle of the night intimidation. Now going after Becky twice. That meant Warren was scared, worried, we say, making mistakes. Scared people made mistakes, and mistakes created opportunities. The eminent domain hearing was 12 days away. 12 days for Garrett to find a way to stop it. Wyatt's evidence wasn't enough on its own. He needed more. He needed Evelyn Hart, and he needed someone with federal authority who gave a damn. At 9 o'clock, Garrett drove to Maple Street, number 42, small house, well-maintained despite its age. Flower boxes in the windows blooming with late-season petunias. American flag on the porch. The kind of home someone loved. Evelyn answered on the second knock. 68 years old. Gray hair in a practical bob, reading glasses on a chain, cardigan despite the September warmth. She looked like someone's grandmother. Until you saw her eyes, steel in them. Grief turned to determination. Mrs. Hart. Yes. My name's Garrett Hayes. Wyatt Morgan said, come in. She stepped back, quick, like she'd been expecting him. Coffee's already made. The house was neat, precisely organized. Photos on every surface. Most of them showed a man in Air Force uniform. Colonel's Eagles, Distinguished Flying Cross, Bronze Star, Air Medals, Commendation Medal, decorations spanning 3 decades of service. My husband James, Evelyn said following his gaze. B-52 pilot, 200 missions over Vietnam, instructor pilot after that. Wing commander at Fairchild, retired in '98 as a full colonel, 40 years of service, every promotion earned. She gestured to the couch. Sit, please. Garrett sat. Evelyn brought coffee in Air Force mugs, blue and white, the colors James had served under. Wyatt called me last night, she said, settling into her own chair. Told me you were fighting Warren. Told me you might need help. Told me you're a SEAL, that you understand what it means to serve. Yes, ma'am. Then you understand what I'm about to tell you. She set down her coffee, folded her hands, composed. 2017, June. Warren approached us about buying our farm. 160 acres. South of here. Good land, water rights. We'd planned to pass it to our son, Timothy, Air Force captain, F-16 pilot. James said no. The land wasn't for sale. It was family. Legacy. Something to build on. She paused. Breath steady, years of practice keeping emotions controlled. Warren offered more money, doubled his initial offer, then tripled it. James said no every time. Warren left angry, said we'd regret it, said no one tells him no in this county. What happened next? 3 months later, September 2017, the county sent a notice, said we owed $17,000 in back property taxes. James went to the county office. They showed him records, saying we hadn't paid in 4 years. But we had. James kept every receipt. He was military. Meticulous about paperwork, filed everything. Organized, dated. She stood, went to a desk by the window, pulled out a binder, 3 inches thick, brought it to Garrett. Inside were copies of tax payments, receipts, canceled checks, bank statements, letters from the county, everything documented, everything cross-referenced, the kind of record-keeping that saved lives in the combat operations. James hired a lawyer, Evelyn continued. Stuart Pemberton, good man, honest. But he was up against three of Warren's lawyers. They buried us in motions. Discovery requests, depositions, every hearing got continued. Every document got challenged. Cost us $40,000 we didn't have. James took out loans, maxed credit cards, borrowed from his retirement. Her voice stayed level, controlled, but tears ran down her face. Silent testimony to pain words couldn't express. February 9th, 2020, James was working in the garage, building a bookshelf for our grandson. I heard a sound, went to check, found him on the floor. Massive myocardial infarction. Called 911. They were there in 8 minutes, too late. She wiped her eyes, precise, efficient. The doctor said his heart gave out, but I know what killed him. Stress, anger, the helplessness of watching everything we built get stolen by a man who already had more than he needed. Garrett didn't interrupt, didn't offer platitudes, just listened. The way you listen to someone carrying weight that couldn't be shared, only witnessed. Warren bought the farm at tax auction 3 months after James died, Evelyn said. Paid $22,000 for land worth $400,000 minimum. Sold it 6 months later to a development company for $900,000. Made a profit of $878,000 off my husband's death. She handed Garrett the binder, heavy with documentation, heavy with loss. Take this, use it. And if you need me to testify to stand in front of whoever will listen and tell them what Warren Ashford is, I'll do it. I'm 68 years old. I've got nothing left to lose and nothing left to fear. They've already taken everything that mattered. Garrett took the binder. There might be consequences. Warren doesn't like people who oppose him. You've seen what he does. Let him come. James flew 200 combat missions, got shot at by surface-to-air missiles, flew through flak that could tear a B-52 apart. I'm not scared of some real estate thug who's never faced real danger in his life. She smiled, thin, hard, forged in grief. Make him pay, Mr. Hayes, for James, for Wyatt, for everyone he's destroyed. Make him pay. Garrett stood. Yes, ma'am, I will. On his way out, she stopped him. Mr. Hayes, that land you're protecting, why is it so important? My wife Catherine's ashes are in the river. She wanted to rest there. Said the water would carry her to the mountains, to something beautiful and eternal. Evelyn nodded, understanding in her eyes, the recognition of one griever meeting another. Then you fight with everything you have, because some things are worth more than money or safety or peace. Some things are worth whatever it costs. Garrett drove home with 2 collections of evidence, Wyatt's lockbox and Evelyn's binder. Stories of theft and loss and lives destroyed, all pointing to one man. Warren Ashford. He laid them on the coffee table, stared at them, thinking. 12 days until the hearing. He had evidence. He had witnesses. But he needed someone with authority to care. Someone outside Warren's reach. His phone rang at noon. Unknown number. Montana area code. He answered. Mr. Hayes. A different voice. Professional. Clipped. East Coast accent. This is Special Agent Graham Pierce, FBI. Montana Field Office in Helena. I understand you might have information relevant to an ongoing investigation. Garrett's pulse quickened, but he kept his voice steady. Who gave you my number? Let's just say a 13-year-old with good instincts and better timing contacted our tip line 2 days ago. Took me until yesterday to verify his story wasn't another conspiracy theory from someone who watched too much TV. But the kid was specific, detailed, convincing. Pierce paused. I've been investigating Warren Ashford for 18 months. RICO, wire fraud, public corruption, but I need evidence that'll hold up in federal court. Wyatt Morgan mentioned you might have accumulated some. I might. I can be in Pine River tomorrow. 10 a.m. Meet me at Millie's Diner on Main Street. Corner booth. And Mr. Hayes, don't tell anyone about this call. Warren has ears everywhere, including in local law enforcement. The line went dead. Garrett looked at Dalton's closed door. The kid had called the FBI. 13 years old and already thinking strategically. Already understanding that some fights required bigger weapons than fists and determination. Catherine would have been proud. Sarah, too. Tomorrow at 10, Garrett would meet Pierce. Show him the evidence. Maybe, just maybe, start the process of bringing Warren Ashford down. But tonight he had to get through the dark hours. The ones where Warren's men might come back. where threats became action and patience ran out. Garrett checked his Glock. 15 rounds plus one in the chamber. He had 3 more magazines in the safe. 61 rounds total. He pulled them out, set them on the nightstand within easy reach. Then he settled into Catherine's chair by the window, watching, listening, waiting. The river flowed in the darkness, steady, eternal, carrying Catherine's memory, carrying hope forward. And somewhere in that dark Montana night, pieces were moving. Federal agents reviewing tip line reports, victims gathering courage, evidence finding its way toward justice. The storm was building. Warren Ashford just didn't know it yet. Special Agent Graham Pierce didn't look like salvation. 52 years old, thinning hair combed over a scalp that had given up the fight years ago. Cheap suit from JCPenney, gray, off the rack. Briefcase with a broken latch held together with duct tape and hope. He sat in the corner booth of Millie's Diner, nursing black coffee, and looking like every other middle-aged man wondering where the years went and why they took so much with them. Garrett slid into the booth across from him. 10 a.m. exactly. Pierce didn't offer a hand, didn't smile. Just looked at Garrett with eyes that had seen too many cases go nowhere and too many bad guys walk free because technicalities mattered more than truth. "You're late," Pierce said. "It's 10 o'clock. I've been here since 9:30. In my line of work, on time is late. Early is on time. And if you're not 15 minutes early, you're already behind." He sipped his coffee, made a face like he'd tasted battery acid. Tastes like someone strained it through a gym sock that's been marinating in a truck stop toilet. But it's hot and it's caffeinated, and that's all that matters at my pay grade. He set down the cup. "Dalton Hayes, your nephew, smart kid, called the FBI tip line 2 days ago. Said his uncle had evidence of federal crimes, systematic fraud, public corruption, the kind of thing that makes careers or destroys them. And I'm here. So either your nephew's smarter than 90% of my usual informants, or I'm more desperate than I thought." Pierce pulled a notepad from his jacket. Government issue, the kind they handed out at Quantico. "Warren Ashford, 62, net worth approximately $240 million. Real estate development, owns or controls 82% of Pine River's commercial property, 14 residential subdivisions, 3 apartment complexes, the only bank in town. Suspected of fraud, bribery, racketeering, environmental crimes, and about a dozen other violations I can't prove because witnesses disappear and evidence gets lost and judges suddenly develop amnesia." He looked up. "What have you got that I don't?" Garrett pulled out his phone, showed Pierce the photos he'd taken. Wyatt's documents, Evelyn's binder, 47 pieces of evidence spanning 7 years, tax records, forged signatures, email chains, witness statements, the whole ugly picture. Pierce scrolled through them, saying his expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Interest, maybe hope, maybe just the desperate hunger of a man who'd spent 18 months chasing ghosts. "Where are the originals? Safe. I'll need them. Physical evidence holds up better in court than photos. Defense lawyers love to question digital chain of custody, but paper's harder to dispute. You'll get them when I know this is real. When I know you're not just another federal agent going through the motions." Pierce smiled, thin, tired, the smile of someone who'd heard every variation of distrust. "Trust issues, I respect that. Okay, here's what's real. I've been investigating Ashford since March of 2022, 18 months of my life. Know what I've got to show for it. Suspicions, patterns, hearsay, circumstantial connections. Nothing a federal prosecutor would touch with a 10-foot pole dipped in hand sanitizer." He tapped the phone screen. This is actual evidence, paper trails, bank records, testimony from multiple victims following the same pattern. This might actually be enough to get a warrant, maybe even an indictment if the U.S. attorney's feeling ambitious. Might. Law doesn't run on certainty, Mr. Hayes. It runs on what you can prove beyond reasonable doubt to 12 citizens who'd rather be anywhere else. Ashford's lawyers are the best money can buy, former federal prosecutors. They know every loophole, every technicality, every way to make good evidence look questionable. They'll challenge every document, depose every witness, find every inconsistency. Pierce leaned back. "But if your evidence is clean and your witnesses hold up under cross-examination, I can get a warrant. Maybe freeze his assets pending trial. Maybe even get a grand jury indictment. That's the best I can promise. How long are warrants take time? I need to present this to an assistant U.S. attorney. Get approval from my SAC, coordinate with the Helena field office, build the affidavit, establish probable cause. Could be a week, Could be a month. Federal bureaucracy moves slow by design. I've got 12 days before the eminent domain hearing. Then you've got a problem. Because federal investigations don't run on county timelines. They run on federal timelines, which means they run slow and careful because rushing gets cases thrown out. Garrett's jaw tightened. So I'm supposed to just lose my land while you push papers around an office in Helena. I'm supposed to build a case that won't get thrown out on technicalities the first time a defense lawyer looks at it sideways. Pierce's voice hardened. Edge in it now. You want quick, go to Sheriff Burke. See how that works out for you. You want justice, you give me the evidence, and you wait and you trust the process. They stared at each other, two men who'd spent careers following orders they didn't always agree with. Two men who knew the difference between right and legal wasn't always what it should be. 48 hours, Garrett said. You've got 48 hours to show me you're serious. Subpoenas, warrants, something tangible. Otherwise, I find another way. There is no other way. And there's always another way. You just might not like it. Pierce studied him, seeing past the civilian clothes to the operator underneath, the SEAL training, the deployment scars, the willingness to do what needed doing. You planning something stupid? I'm planning to protect what's mine. Don't. Whatever you're thinking, don't. You cross the line, I can't help you, and you'll give Ashford's lawyers exactly what they need to paint you as the bad guy. Unstable veteran. PTSD. History of violence. They'll destroy you in court and the press. Garrett stood. 48 hours, Agent Pierce. Make them count. He left before Pierce could respond. The diner's bell chimed behind him. Outside, September sun warmed the asphalt. Normal people going about normal lives, buying groceries, getting gas, complaining about the weather and the government and the price of everything. None of them knew Warren Ashford was stealing their town piece by piece. Or maybe they knew and didn't care. Easier that way. Safer. Garrett drove to the veterinary clinic. Becky met him at the door. She looked exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes like bruises. Hair pulled back messy. She'd been up all night cleaning the damage from the second break-in. Insurance company called, she said without preamble. They're denying my claim, saying the vandalism might be my fault, asking if I had adequate security measures, which I didn't because who the hell robs a vet clinic twice? She laughed. Bitter sound, no humor in it. Warren's insurance company, that's who's asking. Ashford Mutual, he owns it. Of course he does. He owns everything. I'm sorry, Becky. Stop apologizing. I'm not. She led him to the recovery area. Titan's ready to go home. I've got pain meds and antibiotics. Instructions are written down. He needs to take it easy for 2 weeks minimum. No jumping, no running, short walks only. And Garrett, she stopped, looked at him directly. His age and his previous injuries. This was close, really close. Next time he might not make it. There won't be a next time. Can you guarantee that Warren's still out there? Still wants your land, still has the power and money to keep coming at you? Garrett looked through the kennel door at Titan. The K9 stood when he saw him. Slow, careful. The surgical sites shaved and stitched, angry red against his fur, but his tail wagged. That stubborn spirit that refused to quit. I'll keep him safe, Garrett said, whatever it takes. Getting Titan into the truck took effort. The K9 couldn't jump anymore. Garrett had to lift him. 85 pounds of muscle and loyalty and scars. Titan's breath hitched from pain, but he didn't whine, didn't complain. Military working dogs didn't quit just because it hurt. The drive home was slow. Every bump in the road made Titan shift. Uncomfortable. Garrett took the long way. Avoided potholes. Drove like he was transporting explosives. Dalton was waiting on the porch when they pulled up. The kid practically ran to the truck, opened the door before Garrett even shifted into park. Hey, Titan, Dalton said softly, gentle. Hey, boy, I missed you so much. Titan's tail thumped against the seat. Harder now, home, family, the things that mattered. They got him inside. Set up a recovery area in the living room. Blankets, water bowl. His favorite tennis ball that he couldn't play with yet but liked having close. Comfort object from better days. Titan circled 3 times, careful of his stitches, finally settled with a sigh that said home felt good, safe, right. Garrett gave him the first dose of pain medication hidden in peanut butter. Old trick from deployment. Dogs love peanut butter, made pills go down easy, made everything better for a moment. Within 20 minutes, Titan was asleep, breathing deep and even. Healing in the way only time and rest could accomplish. Dalton sat on the floor next to him. hand resting on Titan's shoulder. Uncle Garrett, what did the FBI guy say? He said he needs time. How much time? More than we've got. Dalton was quiet, processing information the way he did. Methodical, thoughtful. So what do we do? Good question. Garrett had 48 hours to see if Pierce was serious. 12 days until the hearing. No money for lawyers, no political connections. No leverage except evidence that might mean something or might mean nothing to a federal bureaucrat more worried about his career than justice. We wait, Garrett said, and we prepare. Prepare for what? Whatever comes next. That night, sleep wouldn't come. Garrett sat in Catherine's chair, watching Titan breathe, thinking about choices and consequences and the difference between what was legal and what was right. His phone buzzed at 11:47, text from Wyatt. Woman just left my daughter's house. 50-something. Professional. Offered me $100,000 cash, said it was a gift from Warren. A thank you for my years of service to the community. All I have to do is recant my testimony. Say I made it all up, that I was confused, old, sick, not reliable. Garrett typed back. What did you say? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I told her Warren can take his money and choke on it. Then I called the other 12 victims. He tried to buy them too. Every single one. Same woman, same script, same 100,000. None of them took it. We're done being quiet. Another text came through. We're meeting tomorrow night. My daughter's house in Billings. 8 p.m. All 13 families. Come if you can. Bring that FBI agent if he's real. If he's actually going to do something instead of just taking notes and filing them away. Garrett stared at the screen. 13 victims. 13 stories. 13 families Warren had destroyed. All standing together now. All refusing to be silent anymore. He texted Pierce, got an address in Billings. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Victims willing to testify. All of them. You in the response came fast. For someone who supposedly moves slow, Pierce could type quick. I'm in. But Hayes, this goes wrong. We're both finished. My career, your freedom, everything. So let's not let it go wrong. Understood. Garrett set down his phone, looked at Titan. The K-9 slept on, dreaming dog dreams, chasing rabbits or insurgents or whatever heroes chased when they rested. At 2:14 in the morning, Garrett's phone rang. Becky. She never called this late, never called at all unless it was important. Garrett, her voice shook. Fear in it, real fear. Someone just tried to break into my house. 3rd time, but this time they didn't run when I turned on the lights. Are you okay? I'm fine. I heard them on the porch. Grabbed Dad's shotgun. Racked it loud so they'd hear. That made them leave. But Garrett, they left another note. Taped to my door with a knife. Stabbed right through the wood. What did it say? A last chance. Stop helping Hayes or next time we come inside and you won't be able to call anyone. Garrett was already moving. Keys, jacket, Glock. Stay inside. Lock everything. I'm coming over. No, don't. That's exactly what they want. They want you to do something stupid so Burke can arrest you. They want you angry and reckless. She took a breath, steadying herself, using the techniques her father taught her. Stay calm, assess, respond. I'm okay. I'm safe. I've got Dad's Remington 870 loaded with double-aught buck, and I'm not backing down. Not now, not ever. Becky. My dad taught me something, Garrett. He said the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Well, I'm not doing nothing. I'm standing with you. We all are. And tomorrow night in Billings, we're going to make sure that FBI agent understands what Warren Ashford really is. After she hung up, Garrett sat in the dark, thinking about good people, about Becky and Wyatt and Evelyn, about Dalton sleeping down the hall, about Titan recovering on the floor, about Catherine who'd believed broken things could be beautiful if you refused to abandon them. Warren was escalating faster now. Threats weren't working, so he'd moved to action. Soon he'd moved to real violence, the kind that left bodies instead of messages. Garrett needed to be ready. He spent the next day fortifying. New locks on the doors, motion sensors on the perimeter, trail cameras hidden in the trees pointing at every approach. If Warren sent men again, Garrett would have warning, and warning meant advantage. Dalton helped, didn't ask questions, just worked. The kid was good with his hands. Patient, thorough. He'd make a good operator someday if that's what he wanted. At 6 p.m., Garrett loaded Titan into the truck. Gentle, careful. The K-9 was healing but still weak, still vulnerable. Where are we going? Dalton asked. Billings, Wyatt's daughter's place. Meeting with the FBI and everyone Warren's hurt. Can I come? Garrett looked at his nephew, 13 years old, already seen too much loss, too much pain, but also brave, smart, willing to stand when standing was hard. Yeah, Garrett said. You can come. You're part of this now. Might as well see it through. The drive to Billings took 90 minutes. Wyatt's daughter lived in a subdivision built in the 90s. Modest homes, chain-link fences, basketball hoops and driveways. The American dream scaled down to what most people could actually afford. Cars lined the street outside number 27. Garrett counted 9. More than he'd expected, more than Wyatt had mentioned. Wyatt met them at the door. He looked different, stronger somehow. Purpose had straightened his spine, given him something to fight for besides memories. They're all here, he said. 13 victims, plus spouses, kids, 28 people total, all willing to talk, all ready to fight. Inside the living room was packed, folding chairs from somewhere. Church basement, maybe. People squeezed onto couches, standing in doorways, sitting on the floor, the air thick with nervous energy and determined anger. Evelyn Hart sat in the corner, straight-backed, composed. She nodded when Garrett entered. Acknowledgement between soldiers. The others he didn't know, but he recognized the look in their eyes. Loss, anger, the kind that came from being powerless while someone stronger took everything and the system said there was nothing you could do about it. Pierce arrived at 8:05. Apologized for being late. Traffic on I-90. Construction near Laurel. He looked around the room, saw the faces. The evidence binder stacked on the coffee table like ammunition. Jesus, he muttered. This is real. This is actually real. Told you, Garrett said. Pierce set down his briefcase, pulled out a digital recorder. Government issue. The kind that created admissible evidence. Okay, I need statements. All of you. Individual testimony. What happened, when it happened, evidence you have, witnesses who can corroborate, everything. He looked at his watch. This is going to take all night. Maybe longer. Anyone have a problem with that? We've got all the time in the world, Wyatt said. We've been waiting years for someone to listen. We can wait a few more hours. They went one by one, each person telling their story, Pierce recording, taking notes, asking questions, verifying details, building a case one testimony at a time. An elderly couple who'd lost their home of 40 years. Warren had forged a deed transfer, changed ownership records. By the time they discovered it, he owned their property legally. Court said nothing could be done. They lived with their daughter now. 3 people in a 1-bedroom apartment. A middle-aged man whose business went bankrupt after Warren bought the building and tripled the rent overnight. Breach of lease. But Warren's lawyers found a loophole. Always a loophole. The man's wife left him, took the kids. He lived in his car for 8 months before his brother in Oregon took him in. A woman whose father hanged himself after Warren took the farm that had been in their family for 4 generations. She found him in the barn, Saturday morning, coffee still warm on the kitchen table. The note said he couldn't live with the shame of losing what his grandfather built, what his father preserved, what he'd failed to protect. Story after story, pain compounding pain, lives destroyed by one man's greed and the system's indifference. Dalton sat quiet in the corner, listening, his face pale, eyes wide, absorbing the cost of evil when good people did nothing, when systems failed, when money bought more than justice. Garrett wanted to send him outside, protect him from this. But the kid needed to see, needed to understand what they were fighting. What happened when people like Warren faced no consequences? At midnight, Pierce stopped, rubbed his eyes. I've got enough for a warrant, maybe 2. Federal RICO charges, wire fraud, public corruption. I need to take this to the U.S. attorney first thing tomorrow. Present the case. If he agrees, we move fast. How fast? Wyatt asked. 48 to 72 hours for warrants. Maybe sooner if I can argue exigent circumstances. Asset flight risk. Destruction of evidence. The U.S. attorney likes big cases. Career-making cases. This could be that. The eminent domain hearing is in 10 days, Garrett said. I know. I'll do what I can. Push as hard as bureaucracy allows. But Hayes, you need to understand something. Even if I get warrants, even if we arrest Ashford, that doesn't automatically stop the hearing. The city council still has to vote. And they're probably on his payroll too. Have been for years. So we lose anyway. Not necessarily. Ashford arrested on federal charges. That changes the political calculation dramatically. Council members won't want to be associated with him. Might vote against the development just to cover their asses. save their own careers. Pierce packed up his recorder. But I can't promise anything except this. I'll build the strongest case possible. And that son of a bitch will answer for what he's done. That I can promise. The meeting broke up after 1 a.m. People hugged, shook hands, exchanged phone numbers, email addresses. A community forming from shared trauma, bonded by loss and the determination to prevent it from happening to others. On the drive home, Dalton spoke. First words in hours. All those people, all that pain, and Warren just keeps winning. How is that fair? It's not fair. Life isn't fair. The system isn't fair. Justice isn't automatic. Then why do we try? Because the alternative is worse. The alternative is becoming Warren, taking what we want regardless of who it hurts. And then the world gets darker, meaner, until nobody's safe. They got home at 2:40 a.m. Titan was waiting. He'd managed to stand, tail wagging despite the pain, despite the stitches, despite everything. Garrett knelt, scratched behind the K9's ears. Good boy. Such a good boy. You waited up for us. Dalton went to bed, exhausted, emotionally drained. Garrett settled in Catherine's chair. Sleep wouldn't come anyway. Too much adrenaline, too much at stake. At 4 a.m. his phone rang. Pierce, the agent, sounded wired, caffeinated, angry. We've got a problem, Pierce said without preamble. I just got word from the U.S. attorney. He's refusing to approve warrants. Garrett's blood went cold, the kind of cold that came before violence. Wipe what? Says the evidence is circumstantial. Says we need more corroboration. Says victim testimony alone isn't enough for federal charges. But that's bullshit, complete bullshit. I've gotten warrants approved on half this much evidence. Someone got to him, someone with juice. Warren Ashford's got reach. More than I thought. Deeper than I realized. So that's it, we're done. No, hell no, I'm going over his head. Taking this to the district office in Missoula. Bypassing Helena entirely. But that'll take time. Maybe a week, maybe two. The bureaucracy. Garrett hung up. Couldn't listen anymore. Couldn't hear another excuse about process and procedure and bureaucracy while Warren kept winning. He sat in the dark, thinking the eminent domain hearing was in 9 days. Pierce needed 2 weeks minimum. The math didn't work. The timeline didn't work. Nothing worked. Unless Garrett pulled out his laptop, started searching public records, council meeting minutes, Warren's business filings, environmental impact statements, looking for something, anything, the weakness every enemy had if you looked hard enough. At 6 a.m. he found it, buried in a 2-year-old environmental impact statement for the Ashford Casino Resort development. Required federal permits. Army Corps of Engineers approval for construction within 200 feet of protected waterways. Pine River qualified. Pristine trout stream, protected habitat. Garrett pulled up the permit application. Read through 43 pages of engineering reports and environmental assessments in bureaucratic language designed to obscure rather than illuminate. And there, page 37, section 4.2, water quality analysis. A discrepancy. The water quality tests submitted by Warren's engineers showed acceptable levels of runoff, turbidity within limits, no environmental impact. But the dates didn't match the metadata. The tests were supposedly conducted in March 2022, but the document properties showed they'd been created in August 2022. 5 months later, after the permit had already been approved, falsified environmental reports, federal crime, Army Corps jurisdiction, EPA involvement. Garrett grabbed his phone, called Pierce. Hayes, I told you, shut up and listen. Ashford falsified federal environmental permits. I've got proof. Document metadata. Creation dates that don't match reported test dates. The whole thing's fabricated. That's your warrant. That's your exigent circumstances. That's your federal crime that bypasses the U.S. Attorney's objections. Silence. Then typing. Fast. Send me everything. Now, screenshots, documents, timeline, everything you've got. Garrett spent the next hour compiling evidence. Screenshots with metadata visible. Original documents. Comparison analysis. Timeline of permit approval versus document creation. Sent it all to Pierce in a compressed file. At 7:30, Pierce called back. His voice different now. Energized. Hopeful. Holy shit, Hayes, you're right. This is federal jurisdiction. Environmental crimes, document fraud, false statements to federal agencies. I can get emergency warrants on this. Today, maybe even this morning if the magistrate judge is available. Do it. I am. I'm writing the affidavit now. But Hayes, this is going to blow up fast. When I execute these warrants, Ashford's going to know someone gave me this information. He's going to know it was you, and he's going to come after you with everything he's got. Legal, illegal, doesn't matter. He'll want revenge. Let him come. I'm serious. He's dangerous. Desperate men do desperate things. I spent 20 years dealing with desperate men. Warren Ashford doesn't scare me. Garrett hung up, made breakfast for Dalton. Scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice. Normal morning routine. But nothing was normal. Everything was building towards something. Convergence, crisis, resolution one way or another. He fed Titan his medications. The K-9 took them without complaint. Trusted Garrett completely, the way partners did. At 9:14 a.m., Sheriff Burke pulled into the driveway. Alone. No lights, no sirens. This wasn't official. This was personal. Garrett met him on the porch. Burke got out slow. He looked tired. Older than his 58 years. A man carrying weight he never wanted. Weight that grew heavier every day. Garrett, he said. Sheriff. FBI's in town, asking questions at the county office. Requesting records going back 5 years. Subpoenaing documents. Burke climbed the porch steps. Stopped 3 feet away. You know anything about that? I might. You're making a mistake. A big one. Warren's connected. He's got friends in Helena, in Washington. People who owe him favors. You can't win this fight. Maybe, maybe not. Burke sighed, sounded like air leaving a tire. I'm not a bad man, Garrett. I know you think I am, but I've got a daughter in college. Medical school at University of Washington. Costs a fortune. $200,000 over 4 years. And Warren, he helps with that. Scholarship through one of his foundations. All she has to do is maintain her GPA. All I have to do is... He trailed off. Couldn't finish the sentence. All you have to do is look the other way, Garrett finished for him. I made a choice. My daughter's future or some stranger's land. What would you have done? Garrett thought about Ahmed and Bashir, about leaving them behind to complete the mission, about choices made under pressure and regret that never faded. I'd have found another way. Or I'd have lived with the consequences of doing the right thing. But I wouldn't have sold my soul to protect someone from their own responsibilities. Burke flinched like he'd been slapped. Easy to say when it's not your kid. It was somebody's kid. The families Warren destroyed. They had kids too. Kids who watched their parents lose everything. Kids who grew up learning the system doesn't protect people. That money and power matter more than right and wrong. Burke turned to leave. Stopped. Looked back. FBI's getting warrants today. Warren knows he's not going to go quietly. And he's not going to leave witnesses behind to testify. Nisham, he paused. You've got maybe 12 hours before he makes his move. Whatever you're planning, do it now and watch your back. I can't protect you anymore, even if I wanted to. Burke left, his cruiser kicking up dust as he drove away. Garrett called Pierce. Burke just warned me, said Warren knows about the warrants, said I've got 12 hours before he makes his move. God damn it, we've got a leak somewhere in the system. Someone at the county office or the magistrate's clerk. Someone on Warren's payroll. Pierce's voice was grim, determined. Warrants are approved. Signed. I'm assembling a tactical team now. FBI SWAT from Billings. U.S. Marshals will execute at 6 p.m. Simultaneous raids on 4 locations. Ashford's estate, his office, his lawyer's office, and Sheriff Burke's house. Burke, warrant came through on him too. Bribery, public corruption, obstruction of justice. He's going down with Warren, they both are. What do you need from me? Stay safe. Stay out of the way. Let us do our job. And Hayes, when this is over, when Warren's in custody, I'm going to need you and all those witnesses ready to testify to a grand jury. Can you deliver that? Yes. Then we've got a deal. 6 p.m. It ends tonight. The hours crawled. Garrett cleaned his Glock, checked the ammunition, made sure the rifle in his safe was loaded and ready, just in case. Because Burke was right about one thing. Warren wouldn't go quietly. And desperate men made desperate choices. Dalton stayed close to Titan, reading to the K-9 from a book about World War II, old habit from when the dog was recovering before. Dalton said hearing familiar voices helped. Helped both of them, probably. At 4 p.m., Garrett's phone buzzed. Text from Wyatt. Warren just offered me $100,000. Cash. Delivered to my daughter's house. Said all I have to do is recant my testimony. Say I made it all up. That I was confused, mistaken, old and sick and unreliable. What did you say? I told him to go to hell. Then I called the other 12 victims. He tried to buy them all. Same offer, same threats disguised as generosity. None of them took it. We're standing together. Another text came through. We're with you, Garrett, all of us. Whatever happens tonight. We're witnesses. We're evidence. We're the truth he can't buy or bury. And we're not afraid anymore. Garrett showed the text to Dalton. 13 people, Dalton said. 13 families, all standing together against someone who thought he was untouchable. Yeah, that means something, doesn't it? That matters. It means everything. It's how change happens, how justice happens. Not from systems, not from institutions, from people deciding they've had enough. That some things are worth fighting for regardless of the bond. At 5:45 p.m., Garrett got the call from Pierce. We're moving in 15 minutes. Full tactical team. 4 locations simultaneously. Warren's estate, his office downtown, his lawyer's office, Sheriff Burke's house. Everyone goes down together. Good luck, Agent Pierce. You too, and Hayes. Thank you for giving a damn when no one else would, for fighting when it would have been easier to quit, for being exactly who those victims needed. The line went dead. Garrett set down his phone, looked at Dalton, at Titan. FBI's moving in 10 minutes, he said. Dalton nodded, serious. Older than 13 in that moment. What do? We wait, and we hope justice actually works this time. At 6 p.m. exactly, Garrett's phone lit up. News alert, breaking story from the Billings Gazette. FBI raids multiple locations in Pine River. Real estate mogul Warren Ashford arrested on federal charges. Garrett pulled up the video. Helicopter footage. News chopper from the Billings station. FBI agents in tactical gear surrounding Warren's estate. Black SUVs, armored vehicles. The full federal response. The Escalade in the driveway. Warren's car. No escape. Agents at the door. Battering ram. Door coming down. Agents flooding inside. 3 minutes later, Warren Ashford emerged in handcuffs. Silver hair catching the evening light. Expensive suit wrinkled. Face red with rage and disbelief. A man who'd never faced consequences, finally meeting them. Sheriff Burke at his own house. Same scene, different location, hands behind his back. Looking small, defeated. A man who'd made a choice and now faced the price. More alerts came. Text from Wyatt. Text from Evelyn. Text from Becky. Text from people whose names Garrett didn't know but whose pain he understood. All saying the same thing. We won. Justice won. Good people standing together won. Garrett sat down, the weight of the last 2 weeks hitting him all at once. The fear, the anger, the certainty that he'd lose everything Catherine had loved, everything she'd wanted to preserve. But he hadn't lost. They hadn't lost. Dalton hugged him, tight, fierce. We did it, Uncle Garrett. We actually did it. We beat him. Garrett hugged him back. Yeah, we did. All of us together. Titan stood, slow, careful, walked over on legs that still trembled, rested his head on Garrett's knee. The canine's tail wagged, gentle, knowing, victory. They'd protected what mattered. Stood when standing was hard, refused to abandon what they loved, just like Catherine would have wanted. But the story wasn't finished yet. At 11 p.m. that night, Garrett's phone rang. Becky, her voice tight, urgent, the kind of urgent that stops hearts. Garrett Titan collapsed. He's unconscious. I need you here right now. The drive to the clinic took 11 minutes, felt like hours. Garrett pushed the truck harder than he should. Dalton gripped the door handle, silent, terrified. They found Titan on the exam table, unconscious. Becky working over him with practiced intensity but barely controlled panic. Stethoscope. IV line, oxygen mask over his muzzle, monitors beeping irregular rhythms. Cardiac arrest, Becky said without looking up. The stress from everything. The surgery, his old injuries, the shrapnel near his heart from Kandahar. It finally gave out. His heart can't take it anymore. Is he? He's stable for now. Barely, but he needs emergency cardiac surgery. There's a specialist in Billings. Doctor. Carl Morrison, best veterinary cardiac surgeon in the state, maybe the region. She met Garrett's eyes. It's $16,500. And even then, he's only got a 40% chance of surviving the surgery. His age, his scar tissue, everything working against him. Garrett's savings account had $3,400. He'd already sold everything worth selling. The Harley, tools, everything. I don't have it, he said, the words tasting like failure. I know. Becky pulled out her phone. But I'm betting this community does. She posted to Facebook. Simple message. Photo of Titan in his military vest from Afghanistan. Badge number visible. K9-4127. Purple heart ribbon prominent. Titan, K9 hero of Helmand province needs emergency surgery. 63 IED detections. Countless American lives saved. Please help save his life now. Then she added Garrett's information. Venmo. GoFundMe link. Every way people could contribute. Now we wait, she said. They didn't wait long. Within 8 minutes, the first donation came in. $50 from someone in San Diego. Former Marine, then another from Texas, then 10 more, then 50. Notifications pouring in faster than Garrett could read them. Wyatt called. Just sent 200. It's all I've got in checking it right now. Evelyn's sending 300. She sold some jewelry, said James would want Titan to live. The numbers climbed. 500, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Veterans from across the country, people who'd never met Titan but understood what K9S meant, what they sacrificed, what they deserved. Garrett watched the total rise, helpless, humbled, overwhelmed by the kindness of strangers who understood brotherhood. At midnight, Wyatt called again. I'm selling my truck, that 1992 Ford. Not worth much, but there's a veteran collector in Billings who follows the fundraiser. He offered $4,800 cash tonight. He's driving over right now. Says K9S saved his life in Fallujah. This is his way of paying it back. Wyatt, you need that truck. You can't. I need Titan to live more. My daughter can drive me around. Small price for a hero, for a K9 who gave everything. By 1 a.m. they had $13,000. Evelyn arrived at the clinic, didn't call first, just showed up. She held out her hand, in it a diamond ring, wedding band, modest but real. 46 years of marriage in gold and stone. James gave me this in 1976, she said, her voice steady despite tears. I've never taken it off. Not once in all these years. But the jeweler downtown opens at 6 a.m. He'll give me $2,100 for it. He told me on the phone when I called. Evelyn, I can't let you. Yes, you can. James would want this. He always said dogs were better than most people. More loyal, more honest, more worthy of saving. Titans proved that true. She set the ring on the counter. 6 a.m. I'll bring Pameche. You use it to save that K9 his life. At 2:30 a.m., the GoFundMe hit $16,000. At 3 a.m., Pierce called. Just heard about Titan. Sent 500. It's all I can afford on a government salary. But Hayes, that K9 saved lives, including yours probably. He deserves every chance. At 4 a.m., Dalton appeared in the doorway. He'd been in the truck. Garrett thought he was sleeping. The kid walked up to Becky, held out a crumpled envelope, inside cash. Small bills, 1s and 5s and 10s and 20s. $680. 3 years of lawn mowing. 3 years of saving for something he wanted. 3 years of mowing lawns, Dalton said. His voice cracked, tears streaming down his face. I was saving for a bike, a Schwinn, the really nice one, but Titan. He wiped his eyes with his sleeve. Titan's my brother, my best friend. Brothers don't need bikes. Brothers need each other. Garrett couldn't speak, his throat too tight, heart too full. He pulled Dalton into a hug. The kid buried his face in Garrett's shoulder and cried. For the dog, for his parents, for everything they'd lost and everything they'd found in each other. For the family forged from ashes. By 5 a.m., the total reached $19,300. More than enough. More than they'd hoped. More than seemed possible from strangers united by a photo and a story, and the understanding that some lives were worth saving, regardless of the cost. Dr. Morrison arrived at 6, reviewed Titan's charts, examined him, nodded slowly. It's risky, very risky. But he's a fighter. I can see it, feel it. Military working dogs don't quit. Let's give him a chance. The surgery took 4.5 hours. Garrett sat in the waiting room, Dalton asleep against his shoulder, exhausted, drained. Becky bringing coffee every hour. Wyatt and Evelyn showing up at 7 just to wait, just to be there, just to show that Titan wasn't alone. At 10:27 a.m., Morrison emerged, tired, scrubs stained, surgical mask pulled down, but smiling. He made it. Bypass surgery, pacemaker implant to regulate his heart rhythm. He's going to need medications for the rest of his life, and he'll never be as active as he was. But he should have another good 2 to 3 years, maybe more if we're lucky. Morrison pulled off his surgical cap. That's one incredibly tough K9. Most dogs his age with his injury history wouldn't have survived the anesthesia alone. But he fought. He wanted to live. Garrett stood, shook the surgeon's hand, words failing, gratitude too large for language. Thank you. Didn't cover it. Nothing could. 3 days later, Warren Ashford stood in federal court. Garrett watched from the gallery, Dalton beside him, Wyatt, Evelyn, Becky, 13 other victims. Plus families. The courtroom packed with people who'd waited years for this moment. Warren wore an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed in front, ankle shackles, silver hair uncombed. The distinguished businessman was gone. In his place stood a tired old man facing consequences he'd spent decades avoiding. The judge read the charges. 23 federal counts. RICO, wire fraud, bribery, environmental crimes, document falsification, public corruption, each charge carrying maximum sentences. Each charge backed by evidence and testimony and the weight of truth. Warren's lawyer tried to argue, tried to negotiate. The judge cut him off. Mr. Ashford, you have systematically defrauded, intimidated, and destroyed the lives of dozens of families over a span of at least 7 years. You corrupted public officials, falsified federal documents, obstructed justice, all in pursuit of wealth you didn't need and power you didn't deserve. The judge looked at the victims in the gallery, at Garrett, at the others. Recognition in his eyes. 42 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole. Restitution in the amount of $6.3 million to be distributed among your victims, as determined by the court. All assets frozen pending restitution proceedings. The gavel came down, heavy, final. May God have mercy on your soul, Mr. Ashford. This court certainly won't. Warren was led away. He looked back once, met Garrett's eyes across the courtroom. No words, no defiance, just the understanding that this was over. That greed had finally met justice. That consequences, delayed for decades, had finally arrived. Sheriff Clayton Burke got 15 years, no parole. His daughter's medical school tuition would have to come from somewhere else now. Scholarships, loans, the honest way. 1 year later, September again, the air crisp with autumn promise, leaves turning gold and red along the riverbank, morning sun slanting through the pines. Garrett stood on the new dock, rebuilt, stronger than before, treated lumber that would last 20 years, looking out at Pine River flowing steady and eternal toward the mountains. Behind him, Catherine's River Haven. 18 acres transformed by sweat and determination and the generosity of people who understood what it meant to serve. 9 small cabins built by volunteer veterans, each one simple but solid. Home, a central lodge for meals and meetings. Medical clinic run by Becky 2 days a week. Workshop for woodworking and metalwork. Gardens tended by Evelyn, growing vegetables and healing. 17 retired military working dogs lived here now. K9s who'd served and sacrificed and deserved peace. German Shepherds, Belgian Malinois. 1 Labrador who'd detected explosives in Iraq for 6 years and lost his left eye to shrapnel. They ran free, played, rested, finally safe. And 9 veterans, men and women who'd come home broken, looking for purpose, for community, for a place that understood what they'd seen and what they carried and what they needed. Dalton, now 14, ran the K9 training program, teaching younger dogs basic commands, learning from the older K9s, learning from the veterans, growing into someone Catherine would have been proud of, someone Sarah would have loved to see. Wyatt managed daily operations from a small office in the lodge, his Parkinson's progressing slowly but steadily, but not fast. Not yet. He had work to do, purpose to fulfill, years to make up for. Evelyn cooked meals that reminded everyone of home, whatever home meant to them. Pot roast, apple pie, Sunday breakfast. She wore a new ring now, simple silver band, gift from the community, engraved inside, for James, for justice, for family. Not the same as what she'd lost, but meaningful in its own way. Warren's mansion had been seized under asset forfeiture, sold at auction. The money distributed to victims according to the court's formula. The building itself became the Pine River Veterans Community Center. Meeting space, job training, resources. The house built on theft now serving those who'd been stolen from. The Ashford Casino Resort was canceled permanently. The land designated as protected watershed. Conservation easement. No development. Ever. Pine River would stay pristine. Garrett's phone buzzed. He pulled it out. Email from the Department of Veterans Affairs. Subject line: Catherine's River Haven. National expansion approval. He opened it, read slowly. Federal grant approved. $3.1 million over 3 years. Mandate to establish Catherine's River Haven programs in 5 additional states. Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, North Dakota, South Dakota. Create sanctuaries for veterans and retired K-9S across the northern plains. Garrett Hayes appointed regional director. Salary $75,000 annually. Benefits. Resources to help hundreds of veterans and retired military working dogs find peace. Catherine's dream. Bigger than she'd ever imagined. Reaching further than she'd ever hoped. Dalton ran up. Breathless. Excited. That teenage energy that seemed boundless. Uncle Garrett Ranger just tracked his first scent 50 yards through the woods. Found the target in 3 minutes, 40 seconds. Titan showed him how. Ranger. The 12-week-old German Shepherd puppy, named after Becky's father, Sergeant Major Hank Walsh, the ranger who'd served in Servog and taught his daughter to help the ones who couldn't ask for it. That's good, Dalton. Really good. Titan's a good teacher. The best. He doesn't even have to do anything, just watches, and the younger dogs learn. It's like he's passing something on. They walked back to the lodge together. Uncle and nephew. Family forged from loss and strengthened by struggle. The evening meal gathered everyone. Long tables built by veterans from lumber donated by the community. Good food. Simple, honest. Laughter and stories. Dogs lying beneath chairs. Veterans helping cook, helping serve, helping each other heal. Wyatt stood, tapped his glass with a fork. The room quieted. Year ago today, most of us were scattered, broken, alone. Some of us had lost everything to a man who thought money made him untouchable. He looked at Garrett, pride in his eyes. But one man stood up, one SEAL in his K-9 said no, and reminded us that courage is contagious, that standing together matters, that justice is possible when good people refuse to quit. Applause. Wyatt raised his glass higher, to Catherine, who dreamed of a haven, to Garrett, who built it, to Titan and all our four-legged heroes who served without asking for anything in return. And to everyone here, we're not victims anymore. We're survivors. We're family. To family, everyone echoed. Later, as the sun set, Garrett walked to the river's edge, alone except for Titan. The K-9 limped beside him, slow but determined. 9 years old now, gray muzzle, moving carefully because of the pacemaker, but content, happy, home. There was a memorial now, wooden marker carved by Wyatt, Catherine's name, dates, simple inscription. Her dream lives here. Garrett knelt. Titan sat beside him. The K-9's head rested against Garrett's leg. Warm, solid, present. We did it, Katie, Garrett whispered. Your broken things became beautiful, just like you said they would. You were right about everything. The river flowed, carrying her ashes, carrying her memory, carrying hope forward into the mountains and beyond. Above them, a new sign swayed in the evening breeze, hand-carved by Wyatt. Letters burned deep into pine. Clear, permanent. Catherine's River Haven, where warriors heal below. It Proverbs 12:10 in smaller script. The righteous care for the needs of their animals. Garrett stood. Titan stood with him. They walked back to the lodge, to light and warmth and voices, to the family they'd built from ruins, to the community that had chosen to stand together when standing alone would have been easier. Behind them, the river kept flowing, eternal, faithful, beautiful. And beside Catherine's memorial, one final inscription, added just 2 months ago, fresh carving in aged wood. In loving memory of Titan, K 9-412763, IED detections. Purple Heart recipient, died peacefully, June 14th, 2025, age 11, buried with full military honors beside Catherine's memorial. A hero, a partner, a friend. Some bonds transcend death. Some loyalty lasts forever. Some K-9s never really leave. Garrett paused, looked back at the memorial, at the place where Catherine and Titan rested together. Both gone, both remembered, both loved. Dalton appeared beside him, quiet, respectful. You okay, Uncle Garrett? Yeah, I'm okay, better than okay. You miss them. Every day, but they're still here, in this place, in what we built, in everyone who finds healing here. They stood together, uncle and nephew, looking at the memorial as the last light faded. Then they turned, walked back to the lodge, to dinner and laughter and the sound of dogs playing and veterans telling stories. To life continuing, to purpose found, to broken things made beautiful through the simple refusal to abandon them. To Catherine's River Haven, where warriors healed, where K-9s rested, where family meant more than blood, where justice had won, where love had won, where standing together had mattered more than any individual could have imagined. The lights of the lodge glowed warm against the gathering dark, and Pine River flowed on, eternal, faithful, carrying memory and hope and the promise that some things once broken could be made whole again.